The story contains real-life events involving mental health crisis and unusual behavior. Viewer discretion is advised.
Most people know the movie The Exorcism of Emily Rose, but what many don't know is that it's based on a real story. A story that's darker, sadder, and much more terrifying than the film. This is the real-life case of Anneliese Michel, a young woman who believed she was possessed, who suffered for years, and whose death led to a courtroom battle that shook both the medical and religious worlds. Anneliese Michel was born in 1952 in Bavaria, Germany. She was raised in a Roman Catholic family, where religion wasn't just a belief, it was the center of their lives. Her parents, Joseph and Anna, were strict and deeply religious. From a young age, Anneliese was quiet, polite, and very obedient. She was the kind of daughter every parent would want, kind, hardworking, and very devoted to her faith. She prayed daily, went to church without complaint, and even thought about becoming a teacher or missionary one day. But everything started to change when she turned 16. One day, while at school, she had her first seizure. Her body froze, and she couldn't speak or move. Doctors ran tests and diagnosed her with temporal lobe epilepsy, a condition that affects the brain and can cause seizures, strange sensations, and even hallucinations. They gave her medication, hoping it would help, but the seizures didn't stop. In fact, things only got worse. After the seizures began, Anneliese's personality changed. She started seeing terrifying images, especially during prayer. She said she saw devil faces, black shadows, and strange figures. She said she heard voices, deep, angry voices that cursed her and told her she was going to hell. She became withdrawn, extremely sad, and started isolating herself. Doctors later diagnosed her with psychotic depression. They tried many types of medicine. Nothing worked. Her condition only got more disturbing. She refused to eat. She couldn't stand being near a church or anything religious. When she saw a crucifix, she would scream or cry. Holy water made her back sting, as if it was burning her. Her family noticed she would avoid places of worship entirely. Anneliese began to say something even more frightening. She believed demons had taken over her body. With no improvement from medicine, Anneliese and her family started to believe something spiritual was happening. They went to their local priest and begged for help. They asked the Catholic Church to perform an exorcism, but the church doesn't allow exorcisms easily. They needed proof that her condition wasn't medical. One priest, Father Ernst Alt, agreed to visit her. He spent time watching her behavior and talking with her. What he saw disturbed him. She would speak in deep, growling voices. She would know things she couldn't possibly know. And she reacted violently to sacred items, without even knowing they were in the room. Father Alt was convinced this wasn't a mental illness. He wrote a letter to the bishop requesting permission to perform an exorcism. Finally, the bishop said yes. In 1975, Father Ernst Alt and Father Arnold Renz began a series of exorcism sessions on Anneliese Michel. They would go on for 10 months. In total, 67 exorcisms were performed. Some lasted hours. Some were terrifying to witness. Almost all were recorded on audio. On the tapes, Anneliese can be heard screaming, growling, and even barking. Her voice would change tone and pitch. She would sometimes speak in what sounded like different languages, even though she only knew German. She claimed she was not alone inside her body. She said she was being controlled by multiple demons, including Lucifer, the devil himself, Cain, the first murderer in the Bible, Judas Iscariot, the man who betrayed Jesus, Nero, a cruel Roman emperor, Adolf Hitler. These were not just names she repeated. She said these demons were talking through her, that they had full control. Her behavior grew more extreme. She would crawl under furniture, bite herself and scream for hours. Her parents said she sometimes went days without sleep. They were desperate to help her. During the exorcisms, Anneliese refused all food and water. She believed that her suffering had a purpose, that she had been chosen to suffer so that others could be saved. She told the priest that her pain would help people who were lost find their way back to God. She prayed constantly. She would kneel for hours, even though her knees were swollen and broken. She hit herself, tore at her clothes, and even licked her urine off the floor, believing it was part of the punishment. Her weight dropped to just 66 pounds. Her body was covered in bruises and wounds. She was no longer the smiling young girl she once was. Her voice was hoarse. Her eyes looked hollow. She was slowly dying. But the exorcisms continued. On July 1st, 1976, Anneliese Michel passed away. She died in her own home. She died in her own home. Her parents and the two priests were with her. The official cause of death was malnutrition and dehydration. Her body had simply stopped working. She hadn't eaten in weeks. Her organs had shut down. Her knees were shattered. Her hands were stiff. Her bones could be seen under her skin. Her last words, according to her mother, were, "Mother, I'm afraid." But to her family, she had found peace. They believed the demons were gone, that she had been freed just before her final breath. Anneliese's death shocked the public. People were horrified by what they heard. How could this happen in modern times? Why wasn't she taken to a hospital? Soon after her death, police launched an investigation. In 1978, her parents and the two priests were put on trial for negligent homicide. The trial was big news all over Germany. Prosecutors argued that Anneliese was very sick and that with proper medical treatment, she could have lived. They said the priest and her parents let her die. The defense said Anneliese had the right to choose, that she begged for the exorcisms. The priest believed she was truly possessed. After a long trial, the court found all four guilty. But because they believed the family meant well, the punishment was light. They were given 3 years probation and no jail time. The Catholic Church later changed its rules, now requiring medical tests and psychiatric evaluations before any exorcism is approved. Anneliese Michel was buried in a small town in Germany. Her grave became famous. People visited from around the world. Some believed she was a saint. Others came to pray or leave flowers. Her case became one of the most talked about exorcism stories in history. Tapes of her exorcisms spread across the internet. Documentaries were made, and books were written. One of the books, by Felicitas Goodman, helped inspire the 2005 horror film. The Exorcism of Emily Rose was not a typical horror film. It mixed scary scenes with a courtroom drama. In the movie, the priest is put on trial after the death of a girl during an exorcism. It shows both sides, medical experts who say it was all in her mind, and religious figures who say she was truly possessed. The film made over $145 million at the box office. More than that, it brought Anneliese's story back to life for a new generation. People wanted to know more. They looked up her name. They listened to the real tapes, and they asked the same question. Was it mental illness or real possession? Years have passed, but the debate continues. Some say Anneliese was failed by the people she trusted most, that her illness went untreated, that fear and faith made things worse. Others believe her story shows that evil is real, that she was a victim of forces we don't fully understand. The truth is, we may never know for sure. Now it's your turn to decide. Was Anneliese Michel truly possessed by demons? Or was she a sick young woman in desperate need of help? Tell me what you think in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this, real horrors that chill you to the core, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon. Because sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones no one believes are real.